Let's get started with our first story. What's next for Ian Garry? Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson recently shared their thoughts on Garry's latest performance against Carlos Prates during their podcast Weighing In. Garry came into the octagon with a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He had to prove not only that he belonged in the top tier of the division, but also that he could handle the heat against a dangerous and explosive striker like Prates. From the start of the fight, Garry showed a composed and calculated approach. He utilized his reach, timing, and movement to keep Prates at a distance. His footwork was on point, his striking was crisp, and he clearly had a game plan. Stick and move, frustrate Prates, and control the tempo. Round after round, he picked his shots, avoided the wild exchanges, and maintained control of the octagon. But just when it seemed like Garry was cruising to a clean decision, everything almost changed. In the final minute of the last round, Carlos Prates connected with a massive shot that rocked Garry. It was a moment that completely shifted the energy in the arena. Fans stood up, commentators got loud. Suddenly, the fight that seemed decided became a battle for survival. Garry stumbled back and had to quickly recover while Prates chased him down, looking for the finish. It was a clear reminder that Prates' power doesn't fade. Not in round 1, not in round 5. That one punch showed the danger Prates carries until the final bell. And for Garry, it was a test of durability, a test of composure under fire. And to his credit, he passed. He weathered the storm, recovered, and made it to the final horn. Despite that late scare, Garry's overall performance was strong. He showcased that he's not just a flashy striker or a social media personality. He's a serious contender. With that victory, he's now firmly in the conversation for a title shot. His skills, discipline, and mental strength were on full display. It's also worth noting that the only blemish on Garry's record so far is a loss to the undefeated Shavkat Rakhmonov, a fight that many saw as a steep challenge from the start. Still, it's a learning experience that seems to have made Garry better. He came into this fight against Prates sharper, smarter, and more composed than ever. Another angle to the story is that Prates is the first fighter from the Fighting Nerds camp to lose inside the UFC. That camp has been making waves recently, producing talent after talent. So this loss, it wasn't just personal for Prates, it was a big deal for the entire team. So what did Big John and Josh Thompson think? They both agreed that it was a solid fight, even if it didn't deliver the non-stop action some fans hoped for. John admitted he thought we'd see more wrestling from Garry. He expected a mixed attack, striking and takedowns, to keep Prates guessing. But Garry mostly stuck to striking, and when he did go for takedowns, Prates showed excellent defense, especially against those single leg attempts. John questioned why Garry didn't switch to double leg entries sooner. When he finally did, he had slightly more success. Still, he couldn't keep Prates down long enough to change the rhythm of the fight. Josh Thompson made a great point. He said that while the fight wasn't fireworks from start to finish, it was the ending that made it memorable. That final minute of chaos, where the entire outcome nearly flipped, is what people will remember. He said, "Most people, like myself, only remember the endings." And he's right, that's the nature of fighting. One final exchange can define the entire narrative. Josh compared it to a weak fight card with a great main event. You sit through a few boring bouts, but the last one delivers. And that's all it takes. That's what you remember. In the end, Ian Garry got the job done, but not without a serious wake-up call. Now, let's move on to the next story. Carlos Prates has officially responded to Israel Adesanya's reaction following his recent loss to Ian Garry. After their 3-round battle, which ended in a unanimous decision victory for Garry, Adesanya took to social media to share his thoughts. He posted to his Instagram story with a simple but meaningful message: "High-level chess, great fight, gents." That short statement might seem minor to the casual fan, but in the world of elite MMA, it speaks volumes. It wasn't just a generic compliment. Coming from someone like Israel Adesanya, a former middleweight champion and one of the most technically skilled strikers in MMA history, the message carried weight. It was a recognition of the skill, discipline, and strategy that both fighters displayed inside the octagon. Carlos Prates didn't let that moment go unnoticed. He reposted Adesanya's story to his own Instagram, writing just 2 words, "My idol," followed by a heart emoji. A short but heartfelt response that spoke to the deep respect Prates has for Adesanya, not just as a fighter, but likely as a role model. That interaction between the two fighters said a lot without saying much. Even in defeat, Prates earned respect from one of the top names in the sport, and more importantly, he handled the loss with class. He didn't make excuses, he didn't blame the judges or call for an immediate rematch. Instead, he acknowledged the fight for what it was, a high-level chess match between two rising welterweights, and he appreciated the recognition from someone he clearly looks up to. This is the kind of sportsmanship and mutual respect that fans love to see in MMA. So often the headlines are filled with trash talk, rivalries, and post-fight drama, but moments like this remind everyone that at the highest level, the sport is just as much about respect and honor as it is about knockouts and wins. And it's also important to highlight the message Adesanya was sending. By calling the fight high-level chess, he wasn't just giving props, he was acknowledging the technical sophistication and mental toughness it takes to fight at this level. Gary's precise striking, Prates' constant pressure, the back and forth exchanges, the tactical adjustments, it was all there. It wasn't just a brawl, it was a technical war. For Prates, this kind of recognition could mean more than just a win on his record. It could boost his confidence, raise his stock, and keep him on the radar of fight fans and analysts alike. After all, earning praise from Adesanya, even in defeat, is something many fighters never experience in their entire careers. In a sport where respect is earned the hard way, Prates might have lost on the scorecards, but he won in the eyes of a champion. Next up, some unexpected drama at UFC Kansas City that had fans buzzing across social media. Things got heated, but not inside the cage. This happened at the weigh-ins, just hours before the fights were set to go down. Joaquin Buckley, known for his explosive style and outspoken personality, tried to confront Ian Gary, but what happened next was not what anyone expected. According to footage shared by Buckley himself on Instagram, he waited until the weigh-ins had wrapped up before making his move. His plan? To walk up to Gary and possibly spark a face-to-face moment, maybe even plant the seeds for a future fight. But just as he began to approach, he was stopped, not by security, not by UFC officials, but by Ian Gary's wife. And she wasn't alone, she was holding their baby at the time. In the clip, you can see her step directly in front of Buckley, using her presence and their child as a clear barrier. Then she hands the baby to Gary, making it crystal clear this moment isn't happening, not today. Buckley seemed a little caught off guard, but instead of escalating things, he backed off, saying, all right, I'll let you have that one. It looked like that was the end of it, but according to Buckley, things didn't stop there. As he was walking away, he claims that Gary's wife came over to him, touched his arm, and said, "I'ma see you later on tonight." Buckley said he was completely thrown off by the comment. He turned around and replied, "Girl, what that mean? I'm trying to see him, not you." Now, whether it was sarcasm, a joke, or some sort of mind game, it definitely added more fuel to an already tense situation between these two fighters. Fans immediately started commenting online. Some were laughing, calling it a moment straight out of a reality show. Others were questioning whether this was all just staged to build hype for a potential matchup. But one thing was clear, this wasn't your typical fighter face-off. This incident highlights the tension brewing between Buckley and Gary. These two have been circling each other for a while now, and while there's no official fight on the books yet, the drama outside the cage might be enough to get the UFC's attention. And let's not forget, Ian Gary is no stranger to public drama involving his wife. She's been in the headlines before, whether it's during fight week interviews, heated press conferences, or social media exchanges. This time though, she went from the sidelines to the front line, literally blocking another fighter from getting to her husband. Buckley's caption on Instagram made his message very clear. He wrote, "Ian, she won't be able to protect you from me much longer." That line alone turned heads. It wasn't just a statement, it was a challenge. Whether the UFC will capitalize on this moment and book a fight between these two remains to be seen. But one thing is for sure, the buzz is real. And when fighters start getting under each other's skin before the contract is even signed, it sets the stage for a highly charged showdown if, or when, they finally meet in the octagon. This was more than just a weigh-in moment, it was a storyline, and it's only gaining steam. Now let's get into our next headline. Jang has officially called out former UFC light heavyweight champion Jiri Prochaza, and it's a challenge that has the MMA world paying attention. Just last weekend, Jang delivered an impressive first-round TKO victory over veteran Anthony Smith. It was a performance that not only boosted his stock in the division, but also gave him the confidence to aim way up the ladder. Shortly after the fight, Jang sat down with Full Send MMA and made his intentions crystal clear. With no hesitation, he said, "Next fight, I want Jerry Prochaza. I watched your fight in Singapore, and you won your battle. I like your style. I respect your warrior spirit. Although you are not the champion anymore, I would like to fight you to test myself." That is a bold call-out, especially considering where Jerry stands in the light heavyweight division. Despite not currently holding the belt, Jerry is widely respected as one of the most dangerous and unpredictable fighters in the UFC. His wild striking, unorthodox movement, and never back down mentality have made him a fan favorite and a nightmare for opponents. But Zhang Mingyang isn't backing down. His performance against Anthony Smith showed that he has serious knockout power and the kind of killer instinct that makes him a threat to anyone in the top 10. By calling out a former champion like Jerry, Jang is clearly trying to fast-track his way into title contention, and he's doing it with confidence and respect. This isn't just a trash talk call-out. Jang made sure to acknowledge Jerry's warrior spirit, his style, and his past success. It's a challenge rooted in respect, but still a challenge that says, "I'm ready for you," and the fans, they're loving it. On social media, fans have been talking about how this matchup would be absolute fireworks. Both fighters are aggressive, both are always hunting for the finish, and neither one likes to take a step backward. This is the kind of fight that could headline a fight night or co-main a pay-per-view. The kind of fight where somebody is getting knocked out. It's also a smart move for Jang. By calling out Jerry, he's not only making headlines, he's putting pressure on the UFC to give him a big opportunity. He's stepping up and saying, "I'm ready to be in the spotlight." Will Jerry respond? That's the big question. Jerry Prochaza is not the type to shy away from a challenge, and if he sees the same warrior energy in Jang that fans do, he might just say yes. If this fight does get made, one thing is for sure, it's going to be must-watch violence. And now perhaps the most shocking update of the day. Dana White has reportedly threatened to strip Islam Makhachev of his title. This explosive news comes from a recent video by well-known Russian reporter Aslan Bek, who dropped a bombshell regarding growing tensions between the UFC and Islam. According to Aslan, Islam is facing mounting pressure from the UFC to accept a fight against Ilia Topuria, a fighter who has been making waves in the division, but the situation has taken a turn, and it seems Islam is not keen on taking that fight, at least not just yet. However, the UFC seems determined to make this matchup happen, and they are putting the heat on the champion. Why is the UFC so desperate for this fight? According to Aslan, the UFC promised Topuria an immediate title shot. That's right, the UFC committed to giving Topuria a chance at the title, and now they're pushing Islam to honor that promise, even though he has yet to agree to the fight. Now, as a champion, Islam does have the right to voice his opinion and determine when and against whom he defends his title. But here's the reality. The UFC often moves forward with plans. Whether the fighter is on board or not, it's all about the bigger picture, the matchups, and the business. Aslan went on to explain that while no one can physically force a fighter into the octagon, the UFC has its ways of applying pressure. One of those ways could be threatening to create an interim title if Islam doesn't take the fight. Another possibility that Aslan mentioned, the UFC could set up a Topuria versus Oliveira fight for the undisputed title if Islam refuses to comply. This is the kind of pressure Islam is under right now, and the clock is ticking. Now, from a strategic point of view, it would make more sense for Islam to wait a few weeks for Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena to play out. This could provide Islam with another high-profile opponent that might better align with his career plans. But the UFC, as we know, is often impatient and wants an answer immediately. The stakes are high, and they're not waiting around for the perfect timing to materialize. It's also critical to understand Islam's perspective in all of this. Islam has already stepped up in a big way by fighting a featherweight Alexander Volkanovski, not once, but twice. He fought Volkanovski when the UFC needed him, showing true commitment to the sport and the organization. But now, after stepping up for the UFC, Islam is asking for some control over his future, and the UFC doesn't seem to be giving him that space. According to Aslan, Islam still wants to defend his title and continue to build his legacy. He's not backing down from from any challenge. He simply wants the timing and opponent to make sense. Ilia Topuria is an exciting matchup for him, no doubt. A real clash of styles and mentalities. The potential for a fireworks fight between them is high, and it could be one of the most anticipated matchups in recent memory. But here's the catch. If the UFC pushes forward without Islam's full agreement, we could see an interim title situation or something even more chaotic. The UFC is known for its unpredictability, and this situation could escalate quickly. The tension between Islam and the promotion is palpable, and this story is far from over. Either way, tensions are high, and the drama surrounding this situation is definitely something to watch closely as it develops. And that wraps up today's MMA news. From spies in training camps to public callouts, emotional reactions, and behind-the-scenes drama, the world of mixed martial arts continues to deliver. Stay tuned for more updates, breakdowns, and reactions as these stories unfold.